Welcome back to the class of biology, and back again. We've completed the last lesson and we will start with a new lesson this time, and of course we are not going according to the order of your books because we've done from unit 1 we've done 3 lessons, and now we will start with the cell. So cell is not something new to you. You've been studying about the cell. So if we say what is a cell, right? You've studied about the unicellular organisms, you've studied about the amoeba, the paramecium, right? And you know that unicellular organism carries out all the functional activities to keep the organism alive, right? So we know that a cell can carry out many activities. But if we are asked to define the cell, how do we define the cell? We say that cell is the basic, structural and functional unit of life, right? So we write it is the basic, structural and functional unit of life, right? So the basic unit of life, the basic thing what life starts from, that is the cell. And the study of cell, or the branch of biology that deals with the structure, form, composition, etc. of the cell, is known as cell biology, right? So we study about the cell under cell biology, right? So the branch of science that deals with the study of the cell, the structure, the function, the composition. So these cells, they get specialized to perform specific functions. Now from the name itself, erythrocytes, they are the red blood cells, right? So what specific functions the red blood cells perform? Likewise, there's other different types of cells. Now we know that these cells, they get organized to form a tissue. Many cells performing similar function, they form tissues. Many tissues together performing the same function, they form organs, and organs having working for one specific we can say function. When they get connected, they form the organ system, right? So now the formation of tissues, organs and organ system also leads to what we call is division of labor. What is division of labor? That the work is divided into different groups, right? So different groups, they perform all the work is divided. Like for example, if we take up the digestive system, right? We take up the circulatory system, we take up the excretory system. Now the function of excretion is particularly performed by the excretory systems. Similarly, circulation is performed by the circulatory system. The function of digestion is performed by the digestive system. Now, if we talk about a particular system in itself, one particular system is made up of different organs, right? The digestive system, if we talk about, it starts right away from the mouth, that is the vestibule where the salivary glands are present. Then comes the esophagus, right? The stomach, the intestines, then the accessory organs that are there which help in digestion, like the liver, the pancreas, the large intestine is there, right? So all these parts or these organs of the digestive system itself, they perform a different function, right? You studied the digestive system in class 10th and you saw, you read, you learned what is the function of the stomach, what is the function of the liver, what is the function of the pancreas, then the intestines, etc., right? So this is how the function of the digestion is divided into different parts, right? The different organs which perform a particular part of the function of digestion, right? So the whole human body has so many different types of organ system. So to keep the organism alive, the organ systems, they also perform different functions. So that is what is the division of labor. Now we come to the this part, that is the functional unit of life, right? first we said that cell is the basic unit of life. How is the cell basic unit of life? Is because the life starts from a single cell and cells perform functions, right? So the functional unit of life, it means simply that each and every cell carries out some function which leads to the activity of the organism. Right now, whatever activity is happening inside our body is actually the sum total or the result of the working of the cells inside the body. Now, if the cells are not functioning, then the activity, there would be no activity in the body and the body would be dead. Right? So, whatever activities are performed by any living organism is the result of the activity of the cell. Now, whether it's a unicellular organism or it's a multicellular organism, right? So, each cell has also the same genetic composition also, right? So, the genetic composition is also the same in all the cells, right? Then we will also read or study into detail that cells are totipotent, right? Totipotency is found, totipotent. Right, now what is this? What is this totipotency? Right, or totipotent cells. Now, a single cell that has the ability to perform, to form the whole organism. Right, this particular thing is known as totipotency. Right, so the cells are also totipotent. Now, that is again one function of the cell. Right, then every cell inside has many cell organelles, right? Now, the working of the cell is actually the result of the functioning of the different organelles that are present inside the cell, right? Then we come to this part, that is the structural unit of life. Structural unit of life means a cell is found in different shapes and sizes, right? So you will find cells to be oval in shape, cells to be cuboidal in shape, that's the nucleus, right? Cells to be columnar in shape, right? Then you will find the nerve cell, right? So they are cells that are found in different shapes also, right? So that is the structural. Now, when we define the cell to be the basic structural and functional unit of life, I hope you must have understood the meaning of the cell being the basic unit of life, cell being the structural unit of life, and cell being the functional unit of life. So the cell we can say is the smallest unit which is capable of an independent existence, right? And performing all the essential functions of life, right? So cell is the smallest unit, very, very small. Of course, we'll study when we'll talk about the shapes and sizes. They are, eggs which are of certain animals which are said to be the largest. The egg of the ostrich is the largest cell, right? Single cell that is there. So cell is the smallest unit of life, which is capable of an independent existence, means it can carry out its own function, right? It also carries out the essential functions of life. Now we come to the next part, that is the discovery. We've been talking about the structure of the cell all this while. Now, who had discovered the cell? Right, the cell was discovered by Robert Hooke, right? Who was not a biologist actually, right? He was studying, he was a physicist who was basically studying about the instrument. So, the cell was discovered by Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke, right? He had discovered the cell. So it was discovered by Robert Hooke, and when he had cut very, very thin slices of the cork and observed under the microscope, he found a honeycomb-like appearance. You all must have seen a honeycomb, right? So that appearance he had found, and which he called actually compartments, right? So he had called those things compartments, and When we, in their language, this was called cellule. Cellule, right? So the Latin meaning of the word, this is derived from the Latin word cella, right? And the meaning of the word cella means hollow, right? So actually the cells are not hollow, but at that time when he had found these things, because it appeared to that time the microscopes were also not very good, right? It was later on that more the microscope was made more better later on, right? So what he could find as he was looking through the microscope, he found that these are some hollow structures, right? So that is why the word cella, which means hollow, but actually we all know that cells are not hollow, right? So these are hollow spaces or compartments, right? So the word cella is, we can say, hollow space or a compartment, right? So Leeuwenhoek is another scientist who in 1673 was the first to observe and describe and sketch a free living cell, right? So Leeuwenhoek, another scientist. Leeuwenhoek in 1673, he was the first scientist who had observed, described and sketched a free living cell, right? Other than that, when we talk about cells, then there are some scientists, some other scientists like Malpighi and Grue, who gave the account of the internal structure of the cells of plants, right? Malpighi and Grue. Malpighi and Grue separately, they had studied the internal structure of the cells of plants, right? And they had described all these things. And after that, now after this, these two scientists had discovered this also, the internal structure of the cells of plant in the year 1675 and 1682. Now after this, there was a long gap until the 19th century. Nothing was discovered after this till the beginning of the 19th century, right? So only in the 19th century more studies about the cell was conducted, right? The next part that we will study, we come to the 1839, this part of the year, right? So it was at this time that more studies were made related to the cells, and the cell theory was formed, right? So the cell theory was formed by Skeldon and Schwann. These are two German scientists who had put forward the cell theory. So the cell theory was put forward by Skeldon and Schwann. These were two German scientists. So I'll just spell it out: Skeldon and Schwann. Right? So Skeldon and Schwann, these were German scientists. In the year 1839, they had put forward the cell theory. Right? Now, this one, Skeldon, was a German botanist. Right? And Schwann was a German zoologist. He was a German zoologist, right? So they did a comparative study of the cells also, and they put forward the cells theory. And the cell theory, it states that the bodies of all organisms are made up of cells, right, and their products. So a body of all the living organism is made up of cell and the products of the cell, so that cells are unit of both structure and function of living organism. That is what we study. That is the basic unit, structural and functional unit of any living organism. So Schwann, or Theodor Schwann, as I told you, was German botanist. He was a German zoologist, and Skeldon was a German botanist, and they found Schwann, the German zoologist, he found that animal cells, right, they lack an outer covering, that is the cell wall. So the cell wall is missing in the animal cell, and the outermost covering of the animal cell is just the plasma membrane, right? So the German zoologist, what he found was no cell wall in animals, right? So the outermost membrane was the plasma membrane. So this was discovered by Schwann, and Schilden and Schwann, they jointly they had proposed the cell theory, right? So they had formed the hypothesis, and they also they spoke about the bodies of plants as well as the bodies of animals, right? And they said that these bodies of plants and animals are made up of cell and their products. They jointly proposed the cell theory in the year 1839, but they could not explain how the cells were formed, right? Now, this was one drawback in the theory, because they could not explain how the cells were formed. So, another scientist named Rudolf Virchow, right, in 1855, another scientist named Rudolf Virchow, right, in 1855, he explained that cells divided and new cells are formed from pre-existing cells, right? So in 1855, he added more to the cell theory, and he said that cells are formed from pre-existing cells by the division of cells, right? So omnis cellula, acellular, this was what meant that cell theory, what was added to the cell theory was that cells are formed from pre-existing cells, right? So omnis cellula, acellular. So that was the meaning. I'll just write it here. Omnis cellula, acellular. Right, so this meant that cells are formed from pre-existing cells, right? So the cell theory was further modified, right? And the modified cell theory, it tells about a few points, that organisms are composed of cells and their products. The first thing that we studied, they're composed of cells and their product. Each cell is made up of a small mass of protoplasm. Inside the cell, there is protoplasm present, and inside the protoplasm, there is a nucleus also present, right? And the plasma membrane is the limiting membrane. So a cell may have just the plasma membrane as a limiting membrane, or may have a cell wall outside the plasma membrane, right? So now that is the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell. New cells arise from pre-existing cells. All cells are basically alike in their chemistry and in their physiology, that is internal functioning of the cell. All the cells are similar in the internal functioning and of course the chemicals that are present, right? Activities of an organism are the sum total of the activities of the cell, right? Because these interactions of its constituent cells also lead to the functioning of the organism as a whole. So these 5 points made up the cell theory, that is the modern cell theory, right? Now we'll just quickly go through the differences between unicellular organism and multicellular organism, right? So you can also think about the differences. The body of an organism, unicellular, we know is made up of just a single cell, right? Whereas multicellular organism, the body is made up of more than one cells, many cells. All the functions of the organism, unicellular organism, are performed by just a single cell, right? Unicellular organism as a whole, the whole individual is exposed to the environment, right? Whereas when we talk about a multicellular organism, the whole individual is not exposed to the environment, right? Only specialized external cells like the cells of the skin, etc., are exposed to the environment. The rest of the things inside are not exposed, right? Then there is in a unicellular organism, a constant internal environment is absent, right? Whereas in a multicellular organism, a constant internal environment is created by the working of the cells, right? It is not much affected. Unicellular organism, no division of labor. If we talk about the groups of cells performing a particular function, there's nothing like that, because unicellular means it is just a single celled organism. So as such, division of labor is not found amongst the cell in a unicellular organism, whereas in multicellular organism, this division of labor is found. Now, because in a unicellular organism, a cell has to perform all the functions of the body, so it is less efficient in terms of the function. That means the functions that they perform are not very, very efficient, because one single cell is performing all the functions. Whereas division of labor is found in multicellular organism, and so the functioning is quite efficient if we compare it with the unicellular organisms. Then unicellular organism, because of being formed from a single cell, the size of the individual is usually small. Whereas in a multicellular organism, although the cells are small, but when many cells are added, the size also becomes huge, right? So we see organisms which are very, very big in size also, right? Now the size of the cell remains the same, they are small cells, but since there are many cells added up, so that makes the organism bigger in size, which is not possible in a unicellular organism. Now in a multicellular organism, if there is death or injury to the cell, then the whole individual, the whole organism dies, right? Whereas this is not there in the case of multicellular organisms. Why? Because if there is injury or death of a particular cell, then not much, the whole body as such is not affected that it may die, right? Then in unicellular organism, cells possess the power of division, whereas it is limited in the case of multicellular organism, right? There are only certain cells that divide up to a certain size, right? Now the organism becomes inactive in adverse conditions, unicellular organisms, right? If the conditions are not very suitable, then the organism becomes inactive. Whereas this kind of distinctive thing is not found in multicellular organism, right? When we were talking about the division of cells, then of course, as I told you, in multicellular organisms, there are only specific cells that divide, right? That means all the cells in a multicellular organism, they do not have the power to divide, right? Then reproductive organs in a unicellular organism as such are not distinctive. There are no distinct separate reproductive organs, whereas in a multicellular organism, there are distinctive reproductive organs that are present. Then in a unicellular organism, once it we can say reproduces, right, to form a new individual, the individuality of the parent cell, it finishes, right? There's no parent cell now, because the whole body has divided into a new cell. So that individuality finishes, whereas in multicellular organism, this individuality does not finish, right? So multicellular organisms can reproduce many times, right? The lifespan of a unicellular organism is shorter as compared to the lifespan of multicellular organism, right? So that's about all for today's class, and we will talk more about cells, and we talk about the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cells in the next class, and about the cell organelles later, right? So that's all about today. Finish the assignment and post it in the group, right? The WhatsApp.